Right to work is a huge, huge debate happening right now in the Show Me state. And again, for me, from being Illinois, I'm very, very appreciative of it. And we need to identify people in the legislature that are fighting for this every single day. And one of the leaders in the House of Representatives in the state level in Missouri is Eric Burlison, fearless to put forth right-to-work legislation so that people in local and state governments can make a choice whether or not to be in a union. Ladies and gentlemen, Eric Burlison.
I love that song. That's a great song. I'm honored to be here among fellow conservatives, and especially really appreciate all the previous speakers. I am thinking about a phrase that my favorite president used to say. When he would affectionately refer to America, he would call her a shining city on a hill. How many of you remember that phrase? You know, that poetic reference to America, it's a biblical, he was referencing a biblical passage, but it was first referenced by Winthrop and the Puritans when they were getting ready to settle America. They saw hope and opportunity in America. And a few hundred years later, as Missouri was becoming the 24th state in the nation, Missouri was a small state, relatively speaking. We were 23rd in size. But at the time, with all the opportunity that people saw in Missouri, you could say that in the United States, Missouri was a shining city on a hill. And in fact, a lot of people moved to Missouri. Missouri went from being the 23rd state in size quickly to the 5th state in size. You know, I think a lot of people are born with the instinct to want to accomplish things by themselves, and that's what drives them to cross the oceans, what drives them to colonize in Missouri. You know, my daughter's favorite phrase right now, she says it a lot, is, "Stop, Daddy, I can do that all by myself." She loves that phrase, all by myself, and she says, "Look, Daddy, look at what I did all by myself." Sometimes when she says that, I have to pay attention because you never know what a 3-year-old can do all by herself. But I think, you know, the early Missourians had that I can do it by myself attitude. And during those years, they were helped because our income tax rate at the most was 1%. And during that rapid growth, as I said, we grew to being not only the 5th largest state in population, but the 5th largest state in prosperity. And, you know, we didn't do that because of our Department of Economic Development. Somehow we grew to being 5th in prosperity without a Department of Revenue. We did it without Department of Natural Resources or the Department of Education. We did it without the Department of Labor. Not to mention, we grew to that success without having forced unionization in the state of Missouri. And unlike 6 of our surrounding states, we now have forced unionization. And today, our income tax is not 1%, it's 6%. And unfortunately, today, Missouri ranks 48th in economic growth. But don't worry, because all of the government departments and programs, they're working hard to change that, right? They walk the halls in the Missouri Capitol. They come in my office all the time and other legislators pleading for more share of your dollars and more share of your resources. And they say things like, "But Representative Burlison, you don't understand. If we only had more resources, you don't understand what it's like to educate children in Missouri. You don't understand. If we only had more tools in the economic development toolkit, maybe we could increase the GDP in Missouri. You don't understand. Maybe if we could just pass this tax increase, then we might be able to meet the budget shortfalls that we're seeing." Right? They try, but despite all of their efforts, these departments and the schemes of these government planners and do-gooders, they cannot turn around the sinking economy in Missouri. And despite however many frequent flyer miles our governor racks up on his new plane, he cannot stop the flight of jobs going to states like Kansas and Texas and Tennessee. Also, despite his efforts, he seems to be unable to provide Missouri children with an adequate and accredited education. I'm a country music fan. I don't know if you've heard the song Red Solo Cup. Who's heard that song? Well, one of the companies that left Missouri is Solo Cup. In fact, it was in my back door in Springfield. My uncle was employed at Solo Cup for decades. And recently, Solo Cup closed the plant in Springfield and offered all of the employees a job in their new location, Texas. They moved to Texas. They moved the Missouri location, which is in a forced union shop, to a right-to-work location. And they're not alone. Currently, right-to-work states are growing in jobs 2.5 times faster than states like Missouri. And people say that people make less in right-to-work states, but that's not true. People make, on average, they grow their salary 4% faster in right-to-work states than states like Missouri. We need to pass courageous bills like right-to-work. I've served in the legislature for 5 years, and I can tell you I like term limits. And the reason I like term limits is because it helps me face the fact that someday I'm going to be defeated in office. And so regardless of how I vote, something is going to defeat me. It is term limits. So I might as well vote what I think is right, because 40 years from now, hopefully I'm alive 40 years from now, I don't want to look back and regret what I did or didn't do in office. I want to look back and be proud of what I did. And I want to look back and think about how we worked hard to make Missouri that shining city again. That's why we need to sponsor more tax cuts and pass them this year. That's why I'm working hard to sponsor Right to Work. And hopefully we'll put Right to Work make Missouri a Right to Work state and return Missouri into being a shining city again. Thank you.